What to do when your customer says, I'll think about it? This is a really good question, and it's one that every single person, if they're running a business or they're in sales, you're going to come across this issue. I'm really excited to answer this, because if you can go off of this video and you can make 1 or 2 changes into your business or your career, then it's going to set you on the right path. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because we don't need to talk about this all day. At the end of the day, if your customer is saying, I need to think about it, then something has happened in the process, something much earlier on that maybe you missed, or just your sales conversation isn't locked down to a point where you don't get these types of reservations or concerns or even objection. What do you do first? Well, the first thing you need to do is to stay calm. Remember, somebody saying that they need to think about it doesn't mean instant rejection. There's always a way that you can get around that I'll need to think about it. Yeah, you can look at it that people say it's a polite no, or especially in England, because we don't say, oh no, I'm not interested. We say, oh, just think about it. But the sale is not lost at this point. What I do want to say is that you do need to look at sales as something you do proactively, not reactively. Most salespeople, they react. Most of you watching this now, just being totally honest with you, what you'll be doing is you'll be reacting and not expecting that person to say, oh, I need to think about it. Or you don't know the reason why they're saying it. So it creates a whole mess. Here's the real reason. They need to think about it because you didn't get them to think about it during their time with you. If you don't ask the right questions, if you don't have your sales conversation locked down, if you are not a mind reader, and you need to be a mind reader in sales, and you don't actually understand the concerns, the fears, the reservations that a customer that you have, what they will have, if you don't know that in advance, then it shows that you're not organized. What you want to be able to do is to get a lot more prepared. And the only way you can do this is by writing down and knowing the sort of objections that you come across, by understanding what challenges they are facing and getting your process locked down. So you've got to get your customer to think about it during their consultation or meeting with you. And if you don't challenge them to think about it, then what's going to happen is they're going to turn around at the end of the consultation when you're ready to close, and they're going to say, I need to think about this. Make sense? What I want you to do from this video is I want you to start looking at your sales process, yeah? Because every customer you have, and you need to think about this, right? Every customer that you ever see, they need to go through a process from like, I'm interested to this sounds good, to, yeah, okay, I'm committed. A lot of people, when they come to see you, although you didn't drag them off the street to be there, although that you didn't demand that they sit down and get sold to, they're more than likely still in the research stage, or they're still figuring out, is this going to be right for me? Your job as a salesperson, your job when you're doing that consultation is not to pitch a product. Your job is to get your customer or your client to think more deeply about their problem, yeah? So you need to be better prepared with your questions. You need to think much earlier in the process, okay, what can I do to influence this person to increase their level of thinking about the problem? Because if everybody was sold on the problem the way that you are sold on the problem that you can help with, then everybody would already be an automatic yes. Instead of believing that you have the best product or service since sliced bread and everybody should freaking buy your product, you're going to be far more successful. You're going to get more conversions if instead what you do is you understand that you are the expert, or you should be, and your customer or your client, they've got this issue that they might not even be aware of. And instead of you just selling a solution and talking about what you can do for them, you will have more success by helping them to understand. And in essence, you are selling them on the problem. Once they're sold on the problem, like, oh my goodness, actually, I do need to do something. Your customer's got to have those aha moments. By doing all of that and doing the work early in your consultation, you're then going to be much better placed to know that you, with complete conviction, that you are going to get a yes from your client. At this stage, even with the best salesperson in the world, sometimes you're still going to get somebody who says, I need to think about it. So let's just look at it that way, right? Say you've done everything perfect, your whole consultation, your entire sales meeting, like you've got it locked down, and you still got that 1 out of 10, people that say, I need to ask my wife, or I need to speak to my boss who's a decision maker. So what can you do in that scenario? Well, if you're in great rapport, I absolutely recommend that you must, I don't say you should, you must ask them politely, say, hey Steve or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, of course, we've sat down today, we've had a great conversation. Do you mind if I just ask you one question? What is your reason for needing to think about it? By doing that, then you can get them to reveal what's really going on. It could be price, it could be now's not a good time, but I see all of those as somewhat just kind of excuses, or they don't get it. It's your job to help them to get it. It's your job to move them from maybe this solution is like 10th on their priority list to like, oh my goodness, this is number one, I absolutely need to take action. You can ask them outright, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, appreciate that we've had this time together. Also can see why you may want to think about it. Do you mind if I just ask one question? What is it that you need to think about? That straight up question. I personally prefer asking a different question, okay? And this question is so powerful because it kind of challenges them, and you need to be confident, you need to be in great rapport. Just done all the work with them and you would say, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, appreciate that you may need to think about this. Do you mind if I ask you a question? If you're not going ahead with this solution or this service, what is your plan to reach this goal in your life? I started doing this when I started getting annoyed when I was personal training. So I was personal training and I was seeing a lot of potential clients, and then they would say, I need to think about it. And at the end, I would just turn around to them and say, you've come to see me for a reason. You want to lose weight, or you've told me your goals, you want to increase your energy, whatever it is. Now at this stage, you're saying, I need to think about it. I just want to ask you one quick question. What is your plan to get in the best shape of your life? You told me you want to achieve X, Y, and Z. What is your plan to achieve that? It's such a good question. Yes, you've got to be confident. Yes, it means that you've got to be in good rapport, but it's so powerful. Ask them, if they're not working with you, then what is their plan? And usually this gets them going, oh, well, I don't really have a plan. And say, okay, did you come to see me because you're serious today? Yes, I am. And then you just start the process again. Finally, if you don't want to use any of that, the best thing you can do is when you get that, I'll think about it, is take them back to the original reason why they're seeing you in the first place. When it comes to a sales consultation or a meeting, you've got to remember this, it's a two-way agreement. Most salespeople, most people trying to sell their product or service, they get all caught up in, oh my goodness, I've really got to impress this person to get them to buy. But actually, it's a two-way thing. Not everybody is your client. At the end of the day, you don't want a bad client. How much does a bad client cost you? So you're better off when somebody says, I need to think about it, to take them back to and say, I appreciate that you may need to think about it. What I want to do though, just very quickly, and you can only do this one time. Let's just take you back to the original reason why you called me in the first place, or why we're having this meeting. Let's really flesh that out and understand, because if somebody to me is walking away saying, I need to think about it, then I did something wrong. It's never the customer's fault. It's never the client's issue. Yeah, it's something that I could have done better. At the same time, it is their decision to come and see you, and they're getting huge value from you if they go ahead, right? So don't be afraid to turn around and challenge them and say, so let's go back to your goal and understand why you're here right now. So there's some options for you when it comes to somebody saying, I need to think about it. But you got to be confident. You have to believe in your product, and you've got to be sold on you, because if you're not sold on you, then you're not going to be able to influence your customer to be sold on your product. Only by building that confidence and by having the certainty to ask these questions. And yes, they are a little bit uncomfortable. Yes, you've got to get your tone of voice right. And yes, you will feel a bit like when you're asking them, but you'll see that by asking these more difficult questions, you're going to get to the real truth with your client, and you're not forcing them to buy. You're not forcing them to spend all that money with you right now. What you're doing is you're challenging them on why they took the time out to see you or to speak with you, and why they're still needing to think about it. Keep the power on your side when it comes to sales. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in our next video.